Okay, what chords do you use to change keys?
Okay, whatever key you're in, think about the key you're going to, and you do the 2 minor and then the 5 major of the new key. So if I'm going from C to D, in the key of D, my 2 minor is E minor, because that's the second note in the scale, that's where the 2 comes from. And then the 5 major is A. So I'm going to go here into the key of C, I'm going to get up to an E minor, then A major, and then I'm in the key of D. And then you're in D. And it works for every key. 2 minor, 5 major of the new key, and then you're ready for the 1 of the new key.
How do you make Holy, Holy, Holy fuller?
4 notes in your right hand. 4 notes in your right hand is the quickest way to a full sound in your congregational playing. 4 notes in the right hand, at least an octave in your left. So for Holy, 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 I'll do it in E flat. I think our hymnal has it in E as well. So I'm going to play 4 notes there with my melody octave and the alto and tenor note in the middle. So I've got... Here's another trick. Use this octave for your melody instead of up here. A lot of pianists think that if you move your right hand higher, it's going to sound fuller. It actually doesn't. It sounds brighter and a little more empty sounding, because it gets a little clingy if you stay too high too long. So instead, I would use this as my melody octave. Now that's a really simplified version, but what I'm doing in my left hand is I'm playing the 1 and the 5 and the 1. So I'm octaving, but I'm also adding in that 5th. And when you add in that 5th, you get a lot of depth. So you just took it from the hymnal, 4 notes, to 4 notes in your right hand, 3 in your left, 7 notes, and it's going to sound a lot more fuller. In addition, you can add in some arpeggios, you know.
What are your tips on playing O Holy Night as a piano solo?
Play the melody in your right hand up at like the pinky. And now that sounds like, well, of course you'd play the melody, but the reason I say keep it in your pinky and like 4th finger right in there is because you're going to roll the rest of your chord in your right hand and left. So it would sound something like this. And keep everything else really softly. It's called voice the melody, and that means where your melody note on top comes out louder than the accompaniment, which is going to be shared in your right and left hand. So, or if you need a really simplified version of that, just roll your left hand in triplets while your right hand plays a melody or maybe a small chord. As you get into the bigger part, fall on your knees, you could move up and do a more of a 4-note chord in your right hand. But if your hands can share that accompaniment pattern, you know. And all I'm doing is they're both playing 2 notes of that chord, like I'm on an E minor chord, so they're on 2 separate notes of the E minor chord, and they're just arpeggioing them. That was just straight down the chord.
Can you play your accompaniment for There Is a Fountain for a Special?
Yes. So if I'm doing it for a special, like if that's normally done as a congregational, in which case I would have a lot of melody. Or more of a rolling bass pattern. But if I'm doing it for for a special, like someone's singing this as a special piece, I'm not going to play as much melody. That's the difference between congregational playing and special music. You won't have as much melody. So I may play more while they're singing the melody. Not as much melody, more accompaniment, which is different for the right hand for a hymn player, because a lot of times the right hand has the melody, but when you're playing for special music, you don't want to have as much melody. You want to let that right hand get involved in more of the accompaniment.
What are your tips for a church pianist who has other instruments in an orchestra, a second piano, and an organist?
Well, if you're the main pianist, your job is to carry the melody. Like, you're not trying to overpower, excuse me, but you still need to have, like, the burden of the melody. So, like, let's take Amazing Grace, you know. I may have other instrumentalists around me playing the melody. Generally, an organ is going to be playing a larger version of what's in the hymnal. So they may be octaving, you know, they're going to be holding out more chords, more sustain. If they're carrying more of the melody for you and you have a second pianist who's playing some melody as well, you could branch out and do more like arpeggios during a verse, you know, like let's take from a foundation. You may do a verse of arpeggios. A verse and do something more like that. You don't have to stick to so much of the melody, but try not to feel like you're outplaying all of the other instruments. I was a second pianist at our home church before I ever became a first pianist, and I would listen really carefully to what the main pianist was doing, and if she was mainly down here with her melody, I would come up here and double the melody up high, so you had a much fuller sound. And if she was doing more arpeggios, I would be really listening to that and coming down and doing the melody myself. So kind of like listen to each other and talk to your second pianist about some things y'all can do differently so it doesn't sound like you're in competition.
Learning to play by ear after 40 years of note reading, what would you say to help me?
Well, if you read notes really well, I would get as many ideas as you can from sacred arrangement books. Like take a sacred arrangement, Lauren's Publishing, Striving Together Publications, Bible Truth Music, all three of those produce really high quality sacred music collections for piano, and I would play the music and then notice things that they do outside of, you know, the straight 4-note hymnal. You know, I played an arrangement years ago by Rebecca Bonham of Count Your Blessings, and she would go. So I kind of got the idea of putting some of that into my hymn playing because I like that strong downbeat and then using more of an octave in the melody. So you could take a song like At Calvary, or, you know, just He Keeps Me Singing. And let's do that one because I haven't done that one in a while. Like it's in A flat, and you could kind of go. So I took the same element that I saw something from note reading, and then I put it into another song by ear. That's what ear is you're doing more than what you hear than just what's on the page. But if you get a lot of great ideas from sacred arrangements, then you can start finding places to put in that into your own ear playing.
Any tips on how to play Christmas songs by ear?
Christmas songs by ear, there's quite a few of them that are really tough. I've been working on Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, and it's a bear. It really is. There are some funny chords in it. You can find a lot of videos on YouTube where people like show you the chords of how to play different Christmas songs. So that would be a first resource. And then once you know the chords, then you're going to be finding good patterns that work for that. Like Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, I don't want to go. Like that pattern's not going to work for that. So I'm looking for more of a rolling pattern. Thinking more of a rolling pattern in my left hand, but I've been practicing it with a chord chart. Like I've got the lyrics with chords written in. So find something like that, then adapt your own pattern to it that fits the song. But Christmas songs are tough. There's quite a lot of them that have some really funny chords in it.
Do you have any tips for using both hands at the same time for note beginners?
Yeah. Well, if you're reading the music, like most method books where you have both hands together at first are going to have them doing something really simple, like mainly trading off a melody, you know. Something like that, where they're together but they're not playing at the same time. So practice picking out a melody with both hands. Then it may add, like one I was working with somebody earlier this week, they were learning a version of Jingle Bells that just has a chord in the left hand on the downbeat while the right hand plays the melody. So you've got so your left hand only plays on beat one. And then eventually you may add some simple things like, I would follow a method book really closely because those are written, designed to help your hands build the confidence to play together. Like you're not going to suddenly be playing different rhythms in each hand. Like it's a skill that kind of has to be learned. So follow a method book really, really carefully.
Are there other ways to change keys during a song other than using the minor of the current and you're playing in the fifth of the next?
It's not the minor of the current, it's the minor of the next key, the 2 minor and then the 5 major of the new key. The other way you can do it is to go, if you're going a half step or a whole step above the key you're in, you can go straight to the 5-7 major, the 5 major. You don't have to do the 2 minor step. So if I'm going from, let's do an easy one. There's not one. Let's go from C to D flat. So I can do an A flat 7 between my C and my D flat. Because I'm moving a half step away or a whole step away, you can just do the 5-7. You don't have to add the 2 minor. So here's what that looks like. Let's take The Comforter Has Come. So. So I just went straight from C to A flat. I didn't have to go to the 2 minor, then the A flat. And generally when I'm playing congregationally, I just do the 5-7 because I'm always moving a half step up or a whole step in congregational playing. So it's the 5-7 of the new key, and that works for like F, well let's do G to A flat, that's a common one. Amazing Grace, you know, I will end that 4th verse or 3rd verse. Straight from G to A flat, and I just used the E flat 7, which is E flat, G, B flat, D flat. You can always find your 7th by going a whole step below the tonic. Tonic is the key you're in, or the chord you're playing. And then you're ready for it. So you can't eliminate that step. Breath of Heaven, I'm not. That song super well. I need to practice Breath of Heaven, so I'll work on it.
What is your favorite Christmas song?
Oh, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is my favorite secular song. My favorite sacred song is Who Is He in Yonder Stall and Thou Didst Leave Thy Throne. And Thou Didst Leave Thy Throne is not my favorite because I play it well. I love the words because it takes us from the manger to the cross and then the resurrection, which is like the purpose of Christmas. It explains the gospel so well in the lyrics. And then I love Who Is He in Yonder Stall for the same reason. It starts out, Who is He in yonder stall, at whose feet the shepherds fall, Him in the manger. But then the ending chorus talks about Who is He that from the grave comes to heal and help and save. And it's resurrection. It's the power of the resurrection is the reason Christmas is actually worth celebrating, because He came to take our sins away. And He did. Those are my favorites.
What notes do you play in your arpeggios?
The notes of the chord. So if I'm on an E flat chord, and I arpeggio that up, then I do an E flat, G, B flat, E flat. And I may double that top note, I may go, or depending on the rhythm, I may just, like, and then He Keeps Me Singing, I may go, so because it fits, whoa, I don't know what that was, it fits it a little bit better to do triplets. So I'm not going to double it. But if I'm on, I Know Whom I Have Believed, there's places where I am going to double that, you know. So I would double that top note. Like that. It depends on what chord you're playing. Like How Great Thou Art, there's a couple really odd chords in there, you know. So that chord right there, I could arpeggio that. And I'm just reading the 4 notes that are on my hymnal. So but the notes I arpeggiated were, is that a word, arpeggiate? I have I'm going to use an F, a B flat, and a C, and an F. So it's kind of like a B flat chord if I change that C to a D, anchored by Fs. But I just like the way it sounds really rich coming down. So and sometimes I do add the D in there. And then it makes for a richer sound when you add the second note of the chord. It's a B flat chord, add in that C, and it sounds really pretty. Rather than add some depth.
If you're the only instrumentalist for the congregational singing, do you add interesting harmony or do you need to stick with what's there?
Congregationally, I would say 90% of the time I'm going to stick to what's there. I'm going to try to. There are some songs that a funny chord sneaks in because it pops into my head and then goes out my fingers before I could catch it. But I would say 90% or more, you need to be playing what's written in the hymnal, because like that's not the time to get too fancy with chords. You can do a lot of fill-ins, you can do beautiful arpeggios, you know, changing of octaves, changing of dynamics. I try to play through the text every time I play a congregational hymn, that I'm not going to be adding a lot of chord subs unless I'm playing an offertory or playing for special music. Postludes and preludes, yeah, I'm going to add in probably whatever pops into my head. But for congregationals, I try to stick to what's written.
Who are some of your favorite pianists that you listen to?
I don't listen to as much piano music as I probably should. So Miss Kim Collins' work is my favorite. I like that she not only plays skillfully, but plays worshipfully. And that's my goal every time I sit down. I really love her style. I think Stan Whitmire has a really great style. He has a really relaxed style that I think is a great style for a church musician to emulate. I like the Anthony Berger and Roger Bennett kind of style as well. That was a little more fancy, but that sounds a lot better when you have full orchestration than when you just play congregationally. So I think Daniel Hopkins out at Lancaster Baptist Church, I think he's got a really fantastic congregational style as well. I'm trying to think of anybody. Shelley Hamilton, Flora Jean Garlock, both of them have a beautiful, rich congregational style as well. Congregational music is really my heart. Like, I love a full sound with all of that.
What are some endings for hymns?
I don't get too terribly fancy with my endings. Generally, you want to end on a really strong one chord, of course, like whatever key you're in. But there are a lot of times I do end down. For example, like, "'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus," I might go. And I may end down, you know, or, let me see. You asked me how I know he lives. Can't start it on the middle. Come up and grab that top note. There's not very many places where I'll add a whole lot of like a chord change. I may do a 4 right before the 1. Let me see. whole lot of like chord differences other than what's in the page, but you can, end on a big arpeggio. How great thou art, I probably would end on a big arpeggio, a big full ending like that.
What patterns do you play in the left hand when playing triplets, ascending up the keyboard with the right hand?
It could be a chord. It depends on the song. Like, I think I did the triplet ascending arpeggio and He Keeps Me Singing. So my left hand during that, when your right hand's doing something that fancy, I want my left hand to not be doing something that competes with it. You don't want your hands to sound like they're competing together. So for He Keeps Me Singing, if I go... just kind of held that chord right here in the middle. So that right there, watch my left hand. I'm just kind of keeping it a nice steady windshield wiper feel. Octave chord, fifth of the octave chord, like that. So don't let your hands sound like they're competing. If your right hand's going to do something frilly, let your left hand stay kind of simple.
How do you transition the melody to a higher octave and then come back down?
Think about the phrasing. Like, think about what the words are saying.
She's good at this.
Let me think of a song I haven't done today. Great Is Thy Faithfulness. That's one of my favorites. So I may start down here. Arpeggio to move me into this octave. So I took advantage of that one beat. Thou changest not. So change in the between phrases. Don't really like change in the middle of a thought. Try to stay in one octave for a concept, a thought, a sentence. Not really an entire sentence, but, there was one more thing I was about to say about that. Oh yeah, use like octave arpeggios to move you into the next octave, or go down, or you may just, So I just use that.
What are your introductions to congregational songs?
I usually start with the first line of the hymn and then quickly get to the end. So, for example, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. It's in A flat. So he calls out, page, whatever, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. I'm going to go, and I'll start my intro while he's saying the page number. Like, don't wait for some awkward 5 seconds of dead air. Like, go on ahead and start the intro. You can help a lot of energy come and be kind of infused into your congregational playing by not having a lot of dead air. So I'm going to go, and then I'm going to do the last line. Or, holy, holy, holy. I may start with, and then I'm going to go, and then it is a little bit longer than an intro, but that's okay. Let's take the end.
I struggle with the fancy playing. I feel like I'm showing off. Do you ever think that way, and how to combat it?
I used to struggle with that more than I do now, and my mom kind of helped me with that. I said I would play something at home, like an arrangement, and just enjoy it so much. And she'd say, why don't you add more of that when you're playing congregationally? And I said, I feel like I'm showing off. I don't want to feel like I'm showing off. I want to just I don't want to be showy. And she said, for you, it's playing skillfully with a loud noise, and if you can do it, then you need to put it into your playing when you're playing in church. God's given you the gift, you need to use it, just like that. And she said, it is not showing off. It adds a lot of energy to the congregational singing. People are encouraged by someone enjoying playing skillfully. And I really look at when I'm playing congregationally and special music and everything else in between as like my act of worship to the Lord, because I'm not down in the congregation holding a hymnal singing. I'm up on the piano, and I really just that little circle right there is where I'm worshiping the Lord in that congregational time. And I want to play my absolute best for Him. Like, He gave me the hands, He gave me the gift, and I want Him to get every bit of it back to Him. So don't worry about that. Enjoy it, play skillfully. If you can do it, it's amazing what a blessing hearing a strong pianist is to a church. So just enjoy it. Don't let that bother you.
Do you like to do 2 minor, 5, 7, 1 in your songs? Example, I Am Thine, O Lord.
No, if I'm doing I Am Thine, O Lord, I'm going from G to A flat for a key change for congregational. So I am not going to add the 2 minor in there. The 2 minor is necessary when you're going any further than a half step or a whole step away from the key you're in. But if you're just going a half step or a whole, just use your 5, 7. So like I Am Thine, O Lord. That's kind of a weird one because the first chord of the song happens to be the 2 minor, but that doesn't actually matter. Don't worry about that. I'm going from G to A flat, so I'm going to use the E flat 7 to walk me into the A flat. Like that.
Do you use a lot of tenths in the left hand when playing a swing bass pattern or more octaves?
Yeah, a lot of tenths. It makes it sound a lot fuller than just an octave. So like Living by Faith. I would, instead of just doing an octave, like, which is just an octave, I'm going to do the 1, 5, 3, which is a tenth. But that's where it comes from. And I'm going to roll that 1, 5, 3. I can't reach a tenth just flat playing. I actually have kind of short, scrawny fingers. Mine are not like long, skinny piano fingers. So I'm going to have to go. There, I used a 7th. So if I'm on the F chord, I'm going to do F, C, E flat. You kind of get the same idea if you'll do more of a 5th in your left hand than just an octave. So add that 5th in there and it makes it sound fuller. So yeah, I use a lot of tenths.
What do you do with your left hand when you have trouble matching the right hand?
What do you do with your left hand when you have trouble matching the right hand? Well, they shouldn't be matching the whole time. Like, let's take something easy. My Jesus, I love thee. My right hand's going to be playing more of the melody. Keep your left hand kind of simple. Your left hand doesn't have to match the right hand. It should be kind of foundational and more rhythm. Think quarter notes. See, my left hand's not feeling like it has to be doing the exact same thing as the right hand. It's more like controlling the rhythm with quarter notes and half notes and just kind of keeping it nice and steady. I don't know if I answered that question very well, but I answered it based on what I thought it was asking.
Can you play Never Enough and Who Is He in Yonder Stall?
Yeah. Okay, Never Enough.
I mean, Never Alone.
Never Alone.
I think they said
How's
Never
that
Alone.
go?
I think it's the Greatest Showman one.
Never Alone?
Never enough? No, never enough.
Never enough?
We're crazy.
Sorry, never enough.
Never.
How does it start?
I
What's the
caught
first
trying
line?
to hold.
Oh, yeah.